So we definitely got a backlash, much like last year, in a different international location with a hot crowd that doesn't really get a lot of the WWE anyway. And tonight, backlash from Lyon, France. The crowd, which they probably go to a lot of soccer and probably a lot of rugby and a lot of other events where the hooliganism is real. Like, it's just how they're going to react. They have their chance. They have the way they're going to be reacting to their events. And it's a bit different than what you would see in other areas, like for Japan or Mexico or wherever else. The constant chants. I think the crowd really just wanted to go ahead and clout chase themselves. They really just wanted to enjoy the event. Enjoy being at a WWE event and do all the chants they want to be able to do that they never get a chance to do. But that doesn't take away the fact that the show was mid. All right. We got good matches, predictable matches, because with a 4-week build, you're not going to get much else coming out of WrestleMania to really change things up. 5 matches. A couple of things noteworthy did happen. By the way, this is the Wrestling Whisperer podcast. I'm recapping WWE's Backlash 2024. And I'll tell you this. It's easier to go ahead and catch up on a pay-per-view on the road when I've had to go ahead and make a trip out of town. And I wasn't driving. And so I had to go 3.5 hours up and 3.5 hours back from West Palm Beach to Tampa in Florida for my niece's graduation. And in the between that, on the way back, I started catching Backlash on Peacock. Hey, worked out perfect. Signal's perfect. Everything else. Hell, I even got the graphics done and the write-up pretty much done by the time I got off the road and got here. And I just got here about 20 minutes ago. But now, watching the show, Bloodline, even though Tama Tonga's now been attached to the Bloodline, it doesn't just work that way. We have really nothing except for the fact that it's Haku's son. Or Meng, I like to prefer because he was a WCW guy for the most part. And the thing is that, they keep talking about Haku's son, but they don't show anything about Haku. We don't take the time to learn about Tama Tonga and his background and how he relates to the Bloodline. This is the part where we need to go and get something more out of this. I don't expect them to go and talk, but we need a story about this. And now we get the Guerrillas of Destiny together. So Tongaloa has now joined. And, okay, former New Japan, IWGP World Tag Team Champions, right? Or at least, yeah, World Tag Team Champions. They're here. But without any of the mystique that they had before, yeah, they're part of the Bloodline. And then it's just supposed to be like that. We didn't get Jacob Fatu. But my guess is, we already know that Jimmy Uso already has a bit of a contention right now with the Bloodline after what happened to him. Like, there is the rift. I don't think it's going to get repaired. But I think that Jacob Fatu is going to be out there to help out Jimmy at some point. And the Usos are going to have a civil war once again on their hands. With Jey Uso, I don't know if he's going to be involved in it or not. But obviously they're not on the same brands. They're split. But Jacob Fatu could debut at some point and be the help to Jimmy Uso to go ahead and take back, because he's going to probably feel like, well, Solo's going off on his own with Guerrillas of Destiny and trying to go and take the Bloodline for himself. So it's a mutiny. And I think there's a good storyline with that. And maybe somehow, some way, you get the Usos back together with Jacob Fatu going after Solo, their younger brother, and the Guerrillas of Destiny. So the Bloodline working against the Bloodline, that would be a good setup you could have, and a lot of things you can do with that. While Roman Reigns is out. It's by Bloodline name alone. That's what they want to go and set up here. I got it. And that was the reason that Kevin Owens and Randy Orton did not win, to give it a lot of time. And look, the crowd making every entrance that much more special. The crowd, making Jey Uso's entrance look that much more iconic. And, but really to everybody, there were just a number of people that got really, that taking advantage of that. Naomi got a great sound to what she got into what they were doing. And of course, my fellow podcast wrestling brethren, the faithful fanatics out there, they want to go ahead and see this kind of stuff going on on a regular basis. They want to go and see, oh, we want chants like this on the show now in America. And you expect the American fans, you expect fickle fans like yourselves, the vocal minority, you're going to think that you're going to be able to go and push and institute and convince the everyday audience that they're going to be watching the pay-per-view. They're going to say, do what France does. Do what Saudi Arabia does, right? Do what Puerto Rico does. They don't. Last year, Puerto Rico was a hot crowd into everything. And what does this crowd normally do? They still get their things, but it's not anything to the level. This is what the WWE wants, right? They want the crowds like this. But when you're saturated and you're overcome with the fact that we have this kind of product on a regular basis, yeah, then you're not going to really care. And I think that the WWE is under the impression that, you know what? While we can have our creative not be overly, we can keep creative basic. We can keep the characters basic. If it just has the aesthetics of like hot crowd, you know, we get moves, we get their finishes, we get a few things going on, a couple near little noteworthy kind of things in a pay-per-view or during a TV show. And that's going to be like enough for social media and for television and for all these other things that are going to make the product just look that much better. You think aesthetics? Do you think the production value? You think crowd noise and production value? You think that's what makes a show? I think everybody's forgetting to circle back around at the talent. And I'm not talking about the talent not giving us good matches. Okay? I never say that the talent does not give good matches. But when I see what they're doing here and the matches that they have, when you get France to going to have this show, like, listen, they got a great gate for it. Again, they sold a whole lot of merch, whole lot of tickets. They got a lot out of this, right? They made big money in France. And now look what they did. They're already going to set up for Vegas for WrestleMania 41. Well, I'll talk about an instant sellout. Just because it's going to be in Vegas and it's an event that, you know, in April, what else do they have? There's no other sports really they can go after of their own they can have anyway. I mean, Raiders season will hardly be done. No NFL. NBA will still be going on, but like, again, it's not anything for them. They don't have a team. And so like, yeah, Vegas having WrestleMania weekend, that's going to be awesome for them. Like, yeah, I got a whole lot they can do off of that. They're going to be just fine. Like, that's a pretty easy bet for WrestleMania to go to Vegas. And if they want to go back again, they could probably do that. Because I think that's going to be real significant on how well that show does, getting Allegiant Stadium all set up and selling it out. Because that will be something spectacular. Now, and the other thing too is that for a show like that in Vegas, the weather's going to be conducive, right? You're actually going to have good weather probably for that time of year in Vegas to do the show, which will probably help a lot as well. And either which way, even if it's going to be closed or they're going to retract the roof because they'll have the right weather, that's going to be good for them as well. But that's another point. So they announced that, but still, it doesn't matter what they're going to do for international audience. They got a couple things here out of this pay-per-view, but still in the essence, feels a bit of a house show. Okay. Still feels a bit of, well, all these stars were here. And I mean, you have a lot of stars that are not there due to injury. With the WrestleMania withdrawal, the injuries that are laden because of WrestleMania, think about it. No Dominic, no Rhea Ripley, no Seth Rollins, no Drew McIntyre on this show, no CM Punk, and Drew's not hurt. You have no Roman Reigns because he's out. You know, he's off of TV for an extended period of time, obviously. And so you're working with the talent that you have right now that's going to be the regular players. And you put that in here. Listen, you didn't even add, you know, Becky Lynch, Liv Morgan, and Nia Jax. You didn't bother to put that show on here, that match on here either. You kept it short. And you got it done. Okay. And what you put together is you sold out 11,000 seats 2 nights in a row in a new territory. You give the talent that people are going to want to go and see. LA Knight, we're not going to put him in no damn pay-per-view. He's on SmackDown. Here we go. Get your cheers out. Because he doesn't matter. One of the most over guys, supposedly, doesn't get a pay-per-view match. Right? And then you look at what else they have and like, okay, in the story, Kevin Owens, Randy Orton, Bloodline, this is what they have is really just kind of like a run-of-the-mill B-level pay-per-view. It's just nice they have a pay-per-view, and they're just giddy and happy, this audience here in Lyon, France, just to have a show. And they made the most of it. And the announcers could not help themselves but overstate the fact that the crowd was wonderful. And they sold so much, and they got so much money off of it. Yes, quit patronizing those people. And quit thinking that you're going to get the same kind of response at every show you're going to have just because it's doing so well in Europe, that back to America, and the same thing's going to go. Because you're going to still have your vocal minority that's going to still do the same thing over and over. Right now, they're all happy and wow, this was great. The entrance, if the entrance looks like this over here, if we had the crowd act like this over here, if we had the town and make the matches feel so exciting over here. Right, that's what you think. The crowd made this show, it enhanced it. It made it feel better. It's still a mid-show, okay? We only got one title change, which pretty obvious when, okay, Kabuki Warriors, 17 minutes, and they want Bianca and Jade out there to go ahead and become women's tag team champions to set up the storyline where I think eventually Bianca and Jade will have a rift down the line, but in the meantime, you're protecting Jade by having Bianca do all the work, for the most part. But Jade gets to finish here, which a lot of AEW fans, again, fickle in their own way, saying, that's the same move at Battle of the Belts that Jade Cargill put on Sky Blue. Yes, it is. So what? She's not supposed to use it? I mean, I get the other side as well. The thing is that it's a bit obnoxious, all this. Jade Cargill, I don't like the way she's being used. Let's just say it like that. I don't like her coming in as a face. I don't like her being put in the shadow of Bianca Belair. You know, I thought what AEW did with Jade Cargill was very good. And while protected, yeah, she did not overly look green. I think they were doing a good job with her. And you could just continue to develop. And they took some time to develop, but again, they're not going to give Jade Cargill that much to do. They're going to let Bianca do the workload. She'll be the workhorse out of this group. And now they have the tag team titles. And, you know, Jay will get some part of this. But again, the happy, you know, respect kind of thing, these two like sisters, I don't buy it. I know they want to build that up. But, man, it's like, I hate to go and see this here because they really are just trying to eliminate whatever Jade Cargill was in AEW. Whatever character she was that she came in with, they don't want to even notice that. Revisionist history. This is just a fresh new coat of paint. We're going to just reset here. Jade Cargill is now our star. We're going to build it the way we want from scratch. Square one. Without any reason as to why they brought her in the first place. Bayley against Naomi and Tiffany Stratton. Triple threat match for the women's title. Let's be clear. Tiffany Stratton was also given a lot of praise. But look, there's a lot of what she's doing right now where, you know, they even said on a commentary, she's a women's world champion someday in the future. Yeah, she should be. I mean, look at her. Look at what she does in the ring. It's everything. That's atypical of us. Like, for me, I look at where when Vince McMahon was running things, he wants that one blonde that like takes up everything. I mean, remember, blondes on this roster, they always put so much higher esteem on, right? Remember when they gave, you know, listen, they gave her Dana Brooks move down with the cartwheel. I get a feel like she's got a bit of like a Mandy Rose kind of feel to her, or a Trish Stratus kind of feel to her. There's a lot of components to what Tiffany Stratton becomes, and obviously it's a takeoff of like a Clueless, you know, gimmick. The Cher character, the Alicia Silverstone character, it kind of gives you that, but still, it works. You know, 25 years later, yeah, we go into that. It works. She's got so much going on right here and really stood out. And notably, Bayley pins Naomi to win. So in that whole storyline, when they started things off with Bayley, you know, looking to see what her next opponent was going to be, she wanted to go and have the head-to-head with Naomi. Tiffany got herself involved, then created a triple threat. And then we get in here, and Tiffany Stratton not pinned. So Bayley and Tiffany Stratton would be the next thing to go in a women's world title match or women's title match, excuse me. That's, I guess, the next direction to go. That works. Set that in place. That's good. Jey Uso is put by the wayside because the Damian Priest character is having a rift right now while Dominic and Rhea are on the shelf. We know that Dominic Mysterio, we see him on TV, was not in France. And we know there's a whole deal with him and Liv Morgan. We see the backstage stuff, the subtle nuances they're putting in the storyline. We can see it. They don't really point it out, of course. They want to make it where it's like, oh, Easter eggs. And Damian Priest upset with Finn Balor and Jenny McDonough, wanted to go into this on his own. So Damian Priest looks like they're trying to make it where Damian Priest, I guess, is going to now, well, he's got the belt, and now he doesn't want Judgment Day involved. It's a bit of a face turn. I understand that part. Like, Damian Priest going face makes sense to me. And a split from the Judgment Day, if you're going to do that, where, Judgment Day doesn't have to have Damian Priest. I think him moving on from Judgment Day works and makes sense to me. And as for Cody Rhodes, AJ Styles, to give Cody Rhodes a match to start off with right here as a first opponent after winning, AJ, you can't do better. I mean, that's a pretty good standard operating procedure for, like, if you want to have somebody that's a great hand. They gave a story out there with AJ and Dusty, right? And their NWA TNA match back in 2001, I think it was. And AJ Styles decides to go and put on gear similar to what he wore the night he took on Dusty Rhodes to win the NWA TNA World Heavyweight title. So circle all that back. It was a nice storyline to put in here for 30 days, roughly 28 days. And then we get to the match and Cody wins. And again, great match. Like, that was the match that really felt pay-per-view. Like, that was like, stand out. And I think the triple threat match with Bayley, Naomi, and Tiffany Stratton, those stood out to me a lot. Now, there were good matches, but from the step that we had of WrestleMania, this takes a bit of a significant step down because that talent's not there. And we see so much of these stars on TV on a regular basis. Nothing ever feels special when you put these matches together. Like, we know we're going to get the matches, but it's like, where's the heat? Where's the intensity? Where's that emotional quotient that makes me feel like I really am like, what's going to happen to these matches? Because when coming into the Backlash, I felt like, they came off the draft, which obviously that put a damper on a lot of things. We already know that the draft, I talked about it on Wednesday, it felt, and I saw more comments, mediocre at best, and it was. And I didn't feel like I got anything out of that really that was something special. It was just kind of there. And that's a shame because, they got to feel like they got to keep doing that because it does help. They think it's going to help ratings. But it did not help ratings. And it felt like, well, we had another issue of like, you're taking away from the pay-per-view. Because of the fact that we have this here, it's because of that. And now let me tell you, King and Queen of the Ring, that they're going to start doing the matches. Listen, might be good for tournaments, to put it on TV and have something to fill time, but it is time filler. The draft is a time filler. It is now because there's not anything really being put into it, anything significant. Like, it's not that hard to just go ahead and, all right, we're going to just switch a couple of names over without any real significant reasons or what is going to happen right away of feuds that we get. We're just going to make the shuffle and that's it. Because that's all it is a superstar shuffle. Nothing else. Without anything else that comes up to it, which that's the really weird part of all that. And I don't like that part, but that's what they decided to do. Mid-show, it's like, okay, it's a B-plus show. Maybe a B-minus, but like, that's it. And it's because I expect more from this company. Like, again, the momentum that you got yourself off of WrestleMania, you took such a step down tonight because there's no storylines in here. Like, you started off some other storylines, nothing really that goes back into WrestleMania because, again, Bianca and Jade, Bianca with the Kabuki Warriors, you're kind of like finishing up that. Now you basically just finish that storyline because now that Bianca goes and Bianca and Kabuki Warriors are now, and Damage Control for that matter, is not in the picture anymore because they're both on different shows. Okay, that's done. Cody gets his win here, and next opponent, who's next for him? Because they'll just go after and find different opponents for Cody, and that's it. You know, the build for some of the other NXT stars, nothing about that being really put in here except for Tiffany Stratton because she's got the rock out on her back. She's getting pushed, and she deserves to be pushed. Braun Breaker? No. Carmelo Hayes? No. And then have time for it? Sure. But, like, again, nothing that we're going to add in here to put anything in that whole storyline right now anyway. You know, Bloodline, they have their story. It's been building along. But, I mean, you can still take time to tell a story. Come on, man. You got 5 hours on Monday and Friday nights. Like, take some time to talk Bloodline. Let's get more into the story. Let's try to build and make Tama Tonga and Tangaloa important. Let's make Guerrillas of Destiny important. Because right now, they're about as significant as, you know, a common razor and, you know, Authors of Pain. They're just there. Okay, just 2 other Samoans. Tell us a story about them. Come on. I'm waiting for that. And there's other stories they have on TV that, again, they're not going anywhere. They're just kind of spinning in circles here. You know, Final Testament, nothing to do with the show. Tag team champions of either side for the men, nothing to do with the show. You know, Sami Zayn, IC title, nothing to do with the show. Logan Paul, US title, nothing to do with the show. Like, I mean, think about that. It's just, it's not even like a half of the roster. It's like a third of the roster here. I mean, they put a show together. It was good. The crowd made it better. So that's it. But, you know, put this in an American crowd and put this in, like, you know, Kansas City or Denver or St. Louis, just some run-of-the-mill city. This show's not going to feel that good. It's not going to feel that hot. But, hey, this is why they do the shows out internationally, because they can do these B-level shows, but against these hot crowds, it just makes it look better. Hey, I get the gimmick. I get the logic behind it. But you're not doing any service for your roster by not giving us more creative, more storylines, much more in the creative side to make us care and be much more emotionally invested in these stars. And I'm not talking about the ones we already know that existed for a long time. When Bayley, we have an emotional attachment. Damian Priest, Bianca Belair, Cody Rhodes, AJ Styles, yes. But there's others we got to bring into the mix here. JSO, yes. But it's like there's so many other stars they have right now that they got to build up and do something with. And they're not ready to be put on Prime or in a pay-per-view, on a premium live event. What are we going to do with them? So I'm concerned about that. Anyway, that's all I got to say about Backlash. A couple of things I want to bring up. I only watched the main event of Under Siege last night because that's all I had time for. I caught it live. And of the matches, it was Josh Alexander and Eric Young over Steve Macklin and Frankie Kazarian. Ash by Elegance over Havoc. Joe Henry over Zachary Wentz. By the way, the song to AJ Francis and calling him Uncle Phil, that's hilarious as shit. Masa Slamovich and Alicia Edwards over Spitfire. So we have new Knockouts World Tag Team Champions. They gave us a title change. How about that? Very impressive. Rich Swann over Jake Something. Jonathan Gresham over Kushida. PC on Jordan Grace over Steph DeLander and Khan. Mustafa Ali defends and retains over Ace Austin. So, yeah, good show. If I get time to go and catch the rest of it, I will. But, you know, it's TNA. When they do a pay-per-view like these that are not the big four, yeah, if you get lucky to see a title change, that's what's going to happen. So that's fine with that. So I told earlier about the writer that talked about the draft being mediocre. And Vince Russo is talking about that. He's on the brand. He says that he was unhappy with the annual draft with Triple H and Shawn Michaels, respectively. And he slammed them both for their booking decisions behind the recent draft. Believes the roster is full of mediocrity and stars won't get over on the main roster until, as I like the factor. And Vince Russo is absolutely right. See, I'm right now in line with where he's saying everything here about Vince Russo. I mean, he's right about it. You know, I don't want to say it, but man, you know, what is it about Vince Russo? You don't want him to go and be booking or being involved in the roster here, but Vince is not there anymore. No more Vince McMahon. Would Triple H and Shawn Michaels even consider consulting him at all? Like just for ideas? Because I don't think Vince Russo's the guy that can make the changes for the creative, but he's right about the necessary changes. Here comes Vince Russo's voice, my impression. Bro, if you can't look at people at this point in your career and say they don't have the it factor, they look like everybody else, and they're never going to get over. What have you learned in the last 30 years, Sean? And then he goes on to say, look up any sport in the world. What sport brings up mediocrity? What sport brings mediocrity to the main roster? You're either great and making the team or you're not. It's freaking mediocrity after mediocrity after mediocrity of all these people. I don't understand the system. We're bringing mediocrity. We keep adding to the numbers and nobody ever gets over. 110% correct. It's what but I have not been paying attention to Vince Russo as of late and what he's been saying. But this is on point, on target. And for those of you fans in the wrestling bubble that don't look outside the lines here and realize we are getting mediocre product, and it's nothing against the roster. They are getting mishandled and mismanaged. With Vince McMahon, a couple of times they would get it right. Okay? But right now, I feel like there's a hesitancy with Triple H and Shawn Michaels where they're just not willing to take the risk. And that's the problem. They have to have that risk factor where Vince McMahon, listen, he would send people out there with a gimmick from NXT. He would take, okay, put them on. Give them a gimmick. See if they crash or burn. Or they succeed. You have to do that. You can't make friends with these people and think, oh, we're just going to give him a job. And here's Johnny Gargano, here Candice LeRae, here Kevin Karrion Kross and Scarlett and, Authors of Pain, Final Testament. Oh, here, you can't do it. You have to send them out there. And the same thing goes for NXT. It's bland. It's basic. He's right, Vince Russo. You don't want to hear it, but it's true. I also want to make a point about a couple names that we saw that are being released. Drew Gulak his contract was not renewed, we're learning. And that was said during the press conference for Backlash by Triple H. It was not that he was released. He was released. His contract was just not renewed. So it expired. And Dave Meltzer is reporting now that also Olympic gold medalist Gable Steveson, was among the NXT releases that took place on Friday. And you know what? There was so much being put behind this guy and, the whole Next in Line program. What's going on here? That's a big thing. I mean, that was the thing that that Triple H was being tasked to take care of. Remember? Because remember when he took time off and he was being stepped away before they really had the heart condition, they were kind of like putting him off in other areas and not really dealing with the day-to-day. It's like, okay, take care of the Next in Line program. Let's do that. But they're not. So Gable Steveson out. And they have a number of names here that they also have that they decided to go and drop. So the names you have that went away is Boa, the former Yangbo Wang, who has been with WWE since September 2016 after trial in Shanghai, hadn't wrestled since December of last year. You had Vlad Pavlenko, a former track star, part of the Performance Center class of spring 2023, never wrestled a match. He was just lost in the translation. Valentina Feroz, the former Rita Rice, has been with NXT since December 2019. Also has not wrestled since December. Trey Bearhill, the former Triller Bucktrot, former college football player. All these next in line folks out. And this guy wrestled 17 matches between last March and this March. Kaya Saint, who was formerly Harley White, debuted in May 2023. 13 matches in total. So again, these are probably folks that just worked on the house shows they have around Florida. That's it. Just see if any what's going on with that. Why are you holding on to these people for? You got to just pull the trigger. There's a lot of talent out there. And you know what? There's a lot of demand for talent that wants to go and come to this company that would gladly take the places of these folks right here. Julian Baldy signed last month after wrestled a match, was part of the Next Gen series. Done. Out. Emma Diaz, former rugby player, wrestled 3 times October 2023 to April 2024. Also with Next Gen. Out. Oh, that new series they put out. Daryl Mason, former amateur wrestler, never wrestled. Keyshawn LaFleur, former college gymnast, never wrestled. All these next in line, folks. Nothing. Ezekiel Balagon, former college basketball player, spring 2023 class, never wrestled a match. What's going on here? Where's this mismanagement coming from? Were these people just like brought in, and then when we had the change in management and just the change of everything with TKO, people just forgot these people were around? Like, what was going on at the Performance Center where all these people were not recognized? What's going on there? Pitiful. I don't know, but I have more than enough to go and continue to go and talk about this program. And listen, if we have to get into a point where we talk about Triple H and Shawn Michaels and the mediocrity that we're getting right now, because we are, there's obviously some good stuff at the top. But, you know, the mid-card, as we've talked about since SummerSlam of 2022, right? Triple H obviously made the mid-card more important. You know, the focus on it was more important. But the focus of the mid-card is part of the part. Now you have to give people a reason to really care about the mid-card. You got a couple of things that you're getting on there, right? Chad Gable with Alpha Academy and to create the teams going all bad, right? You know, you're doing a couple of things, but it's not enough. I mean, we need more time. We need more depth. These people just can't be themselves. Otherwise, they could be AEW, TNA, wherever else. Okay? You got to do something more. Larger than life. What's going on here? Let's go. And it's not upon Triple H and Shawn Michaels just going to do that. Like, listen, take your writers, let them get really creative. Let them get some out there stuff. See what happens. Because you can't let these folks sit here and just take a paycheck if they're not getting better. You can't have mediocre players on a team. You have to have superstars. You got to have superstars of the future. And they don't have enough of those. Work on it. All right, anyway, that's the show. Thanks for listening in. As you always do, kingofpodcasts.com. If you haven't done so, I might go and do a extra, between now and Wednesday. I'll let you know. But, if I do, I'll just drop it and I'll put it out there through social media. Of course, you can follow me on social media for all the news that's going on here with wrestling. kingofpodcasts.com and at King of Podcasts on X, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, LinkedIn, TikTok. And until next time, come back for another Wrestling Goes Real podcast because wrestling needs us.